We're at Batoche, and Batoche for the Métis is critically important. It's a place where we fought for our rights and our land and our culture in the 1885 resistance movements. It's also a place where Métis people gather each summer and celebrate our culture and rekindle old ties. It's also home to the Batoche National Historic Park, and the park symbolizes the great rich history of the Métis in this part of Saskatchewan. This monument is it's made in tribute to the Métis people who served in the First and Second World War and other conflicts during the history of Canada.
I'm from Métis community, Cumberland House, and we have a huge number of veterans that enlisted. 28 in World War I and 32 in World War II and 4 in the Korean.
The Métis are people who developed with the westward expansion of European immigrants and through the fur trade and through the development of Western Canada. Basically, European men married First Nations women, and we spread westward throughout the fur trade and then became a unique, specific cultural group of people. And we had a specific way of living and living off the land, people of the land in Western Canada.
Some of the Métis in the north, they actually paddled by canoe to go to communities to go and enlist because transportation was limited then.
I think in the First World War, Métis communities were a treasure chest for recruiters of the day. First of all, you had people who were largely impoverished and were looking for opportunities to work and to get different opportunities that the Army provided. Second, Métis were very skilled horsemen. They knew how to handle livestock and were adept at handling horses and whatnot. And also, Métis were people of the land, so they could live off the land, and they were very hardy people. And our military history is quite well documented. The Métis are great warriors. We were great shots. We had to live off the land and hunt, so that was an everyday part of our life. I'm very happy to hear from a lot of the veterans when they did serve alongside other soldiers in both the major conflicts. It was a great equalizer. People were treated as one of the group, and they were treated as equals. When the conflicts were over, though, when people returned home, the norm of the day returned, and the Métis were marginalized, lived on road allowances, and really weren't able and didn't take part in the economy as other people had better opportunities and greater wealth.
So after the war, they returned home, and they were told we're going to be heroes. We'll be greeted. And then when they got home, they weren't heroes and they weren't greeted. And they went to their communities in the north and the south, and in the north, they returned home. They were traumatized. They came home safely, but emotionally scarred, and they're traumatized, and there was no social guidance in those days, so they went to their trap lines and they did what they could do to support each other. They came back mean and angry from what they witnessed in the war.
As well, it was really up to the 70s, many Métis people and First Nations people were not allowed into Legion and Legion halls and things like that. So you can see that there was discrimination that really is not that far back in our history.
But there's one that I'd like to mention, that's Tommy Prince. He was a hero in World War II, and he was a sergeant and a leader, and he went through many battles.
Brigadier General Koenig, Commander UK Base, United States Army, presents U.S. awards to Canadians. The recipients are members of the Special Service Force composed of American and Canadian Army personnel who fought together in some tough spots in the drive into Germany. Silver Stars go to Sergeant G.A. Rainville of Bonneville, Ontario, to Staff Sergeant J.K. Knight of Wolford, Alberta, to another Westerner, Sergeant D.F. Peterson of Cardston, Alberta, and to the representative of Scanterbury, Manitoba, Sergeant Prince. Private R.J.
He came home and the Korean War started and he re-enlisted. So he was one of our most decorated soldiers, but when he returned to the society, he started to get into the drinking bins, and from there he went downwards, and they didn't even want to give him a military funeral, and the family and the community had to fight for that. So he eventually got his military funeral and burial, but it wasn't easy for the family to do that for them. So that's one example how he was treated.
In the spring of 2016, we're going to be etching 7,300 names in. It's a big endeavor, and it's going to take months to complete. One of the more difficult challenges that we have when we start to identify how many Métis people served is the Métis on their attestation and military forms could not denote that they were of Métis ancestry. They had to either denote that they were European or First Nations. And then if you were a First Nations person, you had to have a treaty number and a band or a reserve listed. So the Métis were kind of caught in a situation where you couldn't actually denote your culture and on your military forms. So we had to go back through military records and recognize family names. And another method we used is families would voluntarily self-declare that their relatives served, and so that we have a little bit of a hodgepodge in how we attain names for the monument. And also we're going to have a granite centerpiece. Right now you have a Lexon piece, and that's going to be transformed into granite, and it'll be more permanent. That's the art piece by Dennis Weber, and you can see that he has symbolism from both the First and Second World War for Métis servicemen and servicewomen.
It's a real honor for all the Métis to have this monument built here, and it'll be here for years, and I hope the youth can come and visit and realize what their grandparents did for them to save them from tyranny. So their lives will live on and their names won't be forgotten.